more than likely you have a machine that has more than just a straight stitch, unless you have a featherweight. That much, it's pretty much forward and backwards. On your machine, you want to find the applique stitch, or a stitch that can work for applique. Perhaps the most common would just be a common zigzag, and that gives you just a really heavy finish around the edge. As for myself, there are two stitches that I use on my Bernina. When I wrote my book, the Machine and Hand Applique book, I called it the blind hem stitch. Well, the fact of the matter is people say, yeah, I use the blind hem stitch for applique and all that. And the fact of the matter is, no, if you're on a Bernina, chances are you're using stitch number 3. I think that's the stitch on most of their machines. I'm not 100% on that. It's the very overlock stitch. And the very overlock stitch goes like this. It goes bite, a little B bite, 1, 2, 3 stitches, bite, a little V bite, 1, 2, 3. A blind hem stitch goes bite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you use the blind hem stitch, which is usually buried down in the stitch menu, when you make it smaller, it's going to crunch up too many stitches on the outside of your work. So you're going to want to try and use the very overlock stitch, which again is typically stitch number 3. And what you're going to want to do is shrink that stitch down to about a 1 and a 1 on both length and width. And then you can barely see it when it takes its little bite. Now the other thing that I'll do is let's talk about feet. This is the foot that I love on my Bernina. It's a number 20. If you're on another brand machine, just look for an open toe foot, and then see on the bottom there's room for your zigzag to go through. So this is the one I use. And what I like about it being an open toe is that I can take my needle and register it all the way to the left-hand side, and then I can use that guide around the edge of my applique. Now I'm doing with finished edged applique. This is the stitch I use for that. The ones where I've prepared it with the spray starch and or the glue stick, not the raw edge. This is the stitch that I use for finished. So I put on this particular foot. I make sure that if I have changed my throat plate into a single hole, that I put the wide one back on. Just the other day, I put a zigzag or whatever fancy stitch on. It was the single hole, and my machine had a temper tantrum. I was afraid maybe I broke it. It like went, it was just horrible. So I'm working on the 630 here, and I can see that I've got my regular throat plate on that has an extra wide hole. So I'm going to attach my foot to it, and then I want to talk a little bit about thread. It is a virtual hors d'oeuvre tray of threads that are out there when it comes to sewing. Oh, I want to suggest to you that if you are not on Superior Threads website, superiorthreads.com, you really need to go and register for Bob's newsletter. He sends out a newsletter that informs you about the different aspects of thread, and I'll tell you the truth, the more I know, the less I know. And I'm always evolving and changing with what I'm using, but currently I use my masterpiece. I use a color on top that matches the applique, and then the bobbin color matches the background of the quilt. That's what I do. So up next, we're going to set up the machine. You're going to want to see this, okay?